Good evening, students. Today we will be discussing about the structure of human sperm. Okay, so the process of spermatogenesis and oogenesis, the formation of sperm inside the seminiferous tubule, how the primary spermatocytes develop into the secondary spermatocytes, followed by spermatid formation, and finally the sperms are formed. That we have already studied. Now today we will be studying about the structure of a single human sperm. Okay, so as you can see here in the picture, okay, it's a very microscopic structure which basically you can divide it into the head part, the neck, the middle piece, and the tail, right? The structure of human sperm, we can divide it into the head part, the neck part, the middle piece, and the tail. Okay. Now there is a plasma membrane that will envelop the entire body of the sperm. As such, it is a single cell, right? So a plasma membrane will envelop the whole body of the sperm. Okay. So where actually in the sperm the nucleus is present. Of course, it is present in the head region, but then it has to be continuously supplied with energy also. Important term, okay? So the head of the sperm, remember the head of the sperm, it is like it is a place where actually the nucleus, which has the chromosomal material, which is present inside the head part. Okay, the sperm's head consists of elongate, and moreover, yes, again important, it has haploid nucleus, as we have already studied. Okay, in the process of spermatogenesis only, from primary spermatocyte, then how finally when it is formed in the spermatids format, and finally converts into sperm form. Then from diploid, how the haploid chromosomal material is formed. So the head will consist of the nucleus, also the chromosomal material. Okay, and the anterior portion, okay, the anterior portion of the head is filled with the enzyme that helps in the fertilization of ovum's outer wall, the female ovum's outer wall. Okay, so the head part, student, the head part of the sperm, okay, which has a cap-like structure, which is filled with a very important enzyme. Okay, this cap-like structure called as the acrosome, it has a very important kind of enzyme that has the ability to dissolve the wall of ovum of female, so that it can enter inside, and the nucleus from the sperm's head can fuse with the nucleus of the female ovum. So the wall of the ovum needs to be dissolved, then only there will be entry for the sperm to get inside, fuse with the nucleus of the ovum. That is allowed only because of the presence of an important enzyme present in the acrosome region here, present here in the acrosome region. Name of the enzyme is hyaluronidase. Okay, again important term. So acrosome is filled with enzymes that help in fertilization of ovum. It's not just a single enzyme, there are other ones also, but this one plays a crucial role in dissolving the wall of the ovum. Okay, so middle piece, definitely middle piece should have many mitochondria, should consist of numerous mitochondria, which should produce more and more energy for the movement of tail. So in the middle piece, more mitochondria are basically the source of energy, it should be present so as to provide more energy for the movement of tail. And if there is more movement of tail, that will allow more sperm motility, which is necessary for the sperm to reach at the site of fertilization. The site of fertilization in the female reproductive tract is in the fallopian tube. Exactly in the fallopian tube. Where exactly? It is in the ampulla region of the oviduct or the fallopian tube. Okay, so till there the sperms need to make its way, students. So see, it's a very narrow passage like we have already studied. Right? So the site of fertilization actually it's in the fallopian tube of the oviduct. Into oviduct, where exactly? In the ampulla region. Okay. So till there, the sperms needs to make its way to reach to the fallopian tube for the fertilization. For that, it needs more motility, and that is provided by the mitochondria. Okay. So more number of mitochondria, numerous mitochondria should be present here in the middle piece, so as to provide energy for movement of tail of the sperms, so as to reach faster, also survive, also reach faster to the site of fertilization. Now, on an average, a human male ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperms during the coitus, for which in case of like normal fertility, any normal human being, a normal male who has a normal fertility, on an average will release so many sperms in a single ejaculation. So at least 60% of sperms should have normal shape and size, and for at least 40% of them must show vigorous motility, because almost 50% or more than that, they die on the way only in the acidic content of the vagina. But still further, somehow few of the sperms reach in the birth canal, and from further in the uterus only few can make their way out of these many million students. Okay, so many millions of sperms ejaculated, but only one can make its way, right? Only one can make its way to the fallopian tube for fertilization. So sperms which are released from seminiferous tubules, definitely they are transported by the helping ducts, right? The accessory ducts present in the male reproductive system. So the names of these ducts we already studied, right? From what all the ducts, right? The retitestes, vasa efferentia, epididymis, and also the sperm duct, that is the vas deferens. Okay, so the sperms are carried through the seminiferous tubule. They are transported by the accessory ducts. Secretions of epididymis, again a duct, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and prostate are really essential for maturation and motility of sperms. Again, students, I said you, no doubt in the seminiferous tubule, that also in various stages, like in 4 different formats, or you can say morphological stages, or metamorphosis of sperms takes place right from the seminiferous tubules, right? So the sperms, no doubt formed in the seminiferous tubule, they have to first, their only formation takes place, but actually I said you where exactly is the site of maturation of the sperms. It is in the tail part of the epididymis, right? And the tail part of the epididymis, it is called as the cauda epididymis, right? I said you 3 divisions of epididymis: the head, the caput; body of the epididymis, the corpus; and the tail part of the epididymis, that is the cauda. Actually, it is in that tail part of the epididymis, the superconvoluted, the supercoiled structure present partially above, like lying on each testis, you can say. Okay, so there actually in the cauda part, actually the sperms get matured. So various ducts are involved for the transportation. Various ducts are involved for the transportation of sperms, but for the formation of semen, various glands in male reproductive systems are involved. Remember, no doubt the primary reproductive system, the gonad, is testes, but there are the helping supporting parts also. I said you, into that when we talk about the glands, 3 important glands we need to understand. Yes, 3 important glands. One is the seminal vesicle, then the prostate gland, and the bulbourethral gland, also called as the Cowper's gland, right? Talking about the ducts, which the major function of the ducts is to transport, but yes, epididymis also helps in maturity also of the sperms. So the important ducts or tubes or pipes or channels from which the sperms will pass, their names we should remember. And then the important ducts here are epididymis, vas deferens, okay, retitestes, and vasa efferentia, right? Right from seminiferous tubules, the sperms will get transported through these ducts only. Okay. Then seminal vesicle and prostate are essential for maturation or motility of sperms. Seminal plasma along with sperms, it constitutes the semen, right? I said you almost 60% of the semen consists of the seminal fluid only. 60% of the semen. 30% consists of prostatic fluid. And only 10% sperms are present, okay? So this is again important. 60% of the semen consists of the fluid from the seminal vesicle. 30% from the prostate gland. I said you from the prostate gland what all secretions are released. Okay, basically the alkaline secretion, right? From the prostate gland. And actual proportion of sperms in that semen or seminal fluid is just 10%. So yes, nutrition, motility, for these all factors, the role of the helping supporting accessory glands is really important. Okay. So secretions of epididymis, the vas deferens, seminal vesicle, prostate are essential, very essential in fact, for maturation and motility of sperms. The seminal plasma along with the sperms, it will constitute the semen. The functions of the male sex accessory ducts and glands are maintained by the testicular hormones, which is called as the androgens also. It is also called as androgens. And the formation of mature female gamete, that is oogenesis, which is markedly different from the spermatogenesis. Here, oogenesis is initiated by right from the embryonic development only. When there is a female child being born, like female child's growth in the fetal stage, then only in its embryonic stage only, in its embryonic stage only, a couple of million gamete mother cells, that is called as a oogonia, are formed. Okay, in each fetal ovary. In fetal ovary here we are referring to a female fetus. A female fetus, we are referring to a female fetus. So right from its fetal growth period only, any female child, right from its fetal period only, it has, you can say, means mother cells, but which are not in the matured form. That means in the embryonic development stage only, many million gametes, mother cells, which are also the actual medical term for it is oogonia, they are formed in the fetal ovary, a pair of ovary, right? So no more, yes, after the birth of a female child, no more oogonias are found. It is found all before the birth only, when there is fetal growth of a female child. More than million, like yes, more than million kind of, you can say such oogonias or mother cells are formed in the ovary of that fetal child. Okay, fetal female, a female child, you can say. Okay, so later on, after the birth, there is no such formation of oogonias or oocytes. But yes, remember, if it is a female child, female baby, the oocytes, oogonia, the mother cells, they are all in the primitive stage, you can say, not fully matured, you can say, yeah. So later on, after the birth of a female, no such kinds of cells are formed. These are already by birth present, yeah. So then later on, these cells will start division and enter into prophase. Okay. Then after the birth of that female child, then division will start. The cells will enter into the prophase state. Then they will undergo meiotic division. Then in that meiotic division, they will remain in that stage temporarily. So when meiotic division of those mother cells takes place, then they are called as the primary oocytes. Then they are called primary oocytes. Temporarily they will remain in that stage. Later on, these primary oocytes again, they will get surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells. Then once these primary oocytes, they get covered by the layer of granulosa cells, then we call them as follicle. But which follicle? Primary follicle. Primary oocytes, okay, will go for the prophase stage. In that prophase, meiotic division will take place, okay, and then they form from primary oocytes, then they will get surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells. These primary oocytes will get surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells. When they get surrounded by granulosa cells, then that primary oocyte is called as primary follicle. So that means a large number of such follicles will degenerate, right, during the phase, right from birth to puberty. Now, what is puberty? We have studied puberty when the reproductive parts are fully matured, fully formed in a male and a female. So right from birth till puberty, right from birth till puberty, a large number of such follicles will degenerate, right? That means so many degeneration of so many mother cells, right? So at puberty only, because they are undergoing through meiotic reductional division. Remember, they are going through meiotic reductional division. Out of so many, a couple of million gametes, mother cells, only almost around 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles. This is important, students. Only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. Then primary follicle will get surrounded by still. First layer already granulosa cells is there. Then it will start getting surrounded by more layers of granulosa cells. Okay, and a new layer, that is a new theca, THEC, a new theca is formed. When a new theca is formed, then this primary follicle is called as secondary follicle. Okay, and then that secondary follicle will soon transform into what? After secondary, what will be there? It will form into the tertiary follicle. Now, yes, again important stage. When from secondary follicle it forms a tertiary follicle, there is a fluid-filled cavity in that follicle, and that fluid-filled cavity is called antrum. From primary follicle, it is changed into secondary follicle. Remarkable thing, there is theca layer, and from secondary follicle, when it gets converted into tertiary follicle, there is fluid-filled cavity called as antrum. Okay, and then that theca layer is organized. That theca outer layer will get differentiated into outer and inner layer. Okay, that means outer layer will be theca externa, inner one will be the theca interna. Okay, so it is important. This is very, again, theca layer will get organized into two important layers, that is the theca externa and theca interna, right? So at this stage, primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle now will start growing in size, complete its first meiotic division. Okay, it will first complete its meiotic division. This is an unequal division resulting in the formation of large haploid secondary oocytes and a tiny first polar body. Okay, so yeah, this is how you can see the primary follicle, tertiary follicle showing the antrum also, that is the fluid-filled cavity here. So the secondary oocyte retains the bulk of the nutrient with cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. Yes. So yes, in this picture, as you can see, primary follicle changes into secondary from the tertiary. When the tertiary follicle is formed, exactly there is a fluid-filled cavity called as antrum, like here, a fluid-filled cavity called as the anther. Later on when these follicles will develop, okay, further, finally when it is fully grown, when we call it as Graafian follicle. This Graafian follicle, this word actually Graafian, is actually derived from its discoverer, Sir Graaf. Okay, so fully matured follicle, that is called as a Graafian follicle, is the one which is picked up by the fimbriae. So then we'll be discussing, students, about then in the next session how actually Graafian follicle gets picked up by the fimbriae part of the fallopian tube, which comes out from the infundibulum part, and then what is left outer after that. Once the ovum is picked up, what is left? So what is the significance of that remaining portion that is called as the corpus luteum? These things we will be discussing in our next session, okay?